Fer De Lance, welcome to 69 Face of Rock. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome.
Good, thank you.
Excellent. Introduce yourself and tell me what you do in the band.
Yeah, my name's Rusty. I play bass and also sing a lot of the choir vocals in Fer De Lance.
My name is MP, and I sing and play guitar and keyboards, and I think a penny whistle at some point, and choirs, and all the rest of some nonsense. But Rusty did not say that he also plays a mean tambourine on the latest album as well.
But I remembered it as you were listing off all your extra things. Yeah,
Very important qualification. You don't want to leave that off.
yeah. But no, yeah, percussion for sure. Yeah, for sure.
First of all, congratulations on your new album. It's absolutely fantastic album. One of the best of the year, for sure.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
So tell me about the songwriting process for Fires on the Mountainside. How did you prepare for this album?
The songwriting kind of happened in the same way that every one of our albums' songwriting has happened, at least in the first part, which is I just sit around with an acoustic guitar and I come up with a melody. I come up with some counter melodies, and I find the chords underneath that, and then I build a drum track, and I record a fairly full demo. Share it with everyone else, and then we move on from there. And I think with this album, what really changed um, uh, from the Hyperborean, the last album, is that Scud and Rusty had a lot more input into what that final demo becomes. Um, and that could be Scud's absolute change in rhythms. It could be uh, Rusty's kind of adaptation to that change of rhythms, but also Rusty had a ton of different choir ideas that we explored and percussion ideas. So this album kind of also was a bit different in that, we were all working together, and uh, even though it started the same way with an acoustic guitar, it kind of ended a different way.
Yeah, and when we did the previous album, the Hyperborean, Scud had just joined. We had only we hadn't even, I don't think we'd even played a live gig yet. So, for this album, it was totally different. We had a live band established. We'd played in Germany. We went on tour and, played some awesome gigs together. And, in the writing process, from my point of view, it's, Scud and I and, everyone, we get a song from, MP, and it's like usually the full song, everything's in there. Sometimes they don't, at the beginning, they don't have vocals. But anyway, back to how this was different is that we really had a chance to jam these songs together as a live band. We had a live band identity, and that was one of the really pleasant things about this album is that we had a lot of time to, Scud and I and Jay Geist, have a little bit of Mark on the album. And it's kind of, I think, progressing even further as we think, all right, we're already thinking about the next album.
And on the average, how long did it take for these ideas to turn into the songs that ended up on the album?
Well, I imagine MP sort of like the piano player when they're doing their just like just alone at night with a candlestick, and he spends 6 to 8 hours, and then kind of
Oh,
then
the Beethoven
then
thing. You're saying the
the
Beethoven
Beethoven.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Beethoven
yeah,
thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Maybe there's some wine. But I imagine this fit of rage and passion and everything, and then then it comes to the band, and it gets kind of okay. Well, how does this actually going to fit into Fer De Lance and things like that? A lot of the songs at the beginning don't have the choirs, and so it's like okay, we got to imagine that thing. A lot of the choirs for Fires on the Mountainside, the album, um, we had that general idea of what they were going to be, but MP and I got together in the practice space. Some of the stuff on the album we ended up recording ourselves um, to save some money, and also we had invested in some at-home recording equipment, and we did a lot of these choirs. We came up with a lot of these ideas kind of in the moment together, in the practice room. And yeah, so overall the new everything's moving to, hey, we're working together.
Um, MP, you're responsible for a big chunk of this material. Do you have a special place where these ideas come to you? Is writing like a ritual to you? How does that work?
Oh, that's a great question. I guess it's kind of a ritual. I every 2 or 3 days I have this terrible feeling in my gut, and if I don't play something or do something and create with it, then I feel terrible for the rest of the week. And so generally, Rusty's kind of approximation of my of what I do is not too wrong. It's pretty right. And I generally just I pick up an acoustic guitar and I will sit in a room, kind of imagine places that I've been in the past year or places I want to go in the past year. And I imagine that as kind of my soundscape. And I just write as much music as I can in about a 4 or 5 hour time span. It takes a silly amount of time to write these songs. And by silly, I mean it takes minutes to write these songs because it just kind of all comes out all at once, and all I'm doing is trying to catch ideas as it comes out. um, and so yeah, the ritual is basically sitting in front of, unfortunately, a computer, with an acoustic guitar, coming up with ideas, recording those, and then drinking too much wine uh, and then coming up with the rest of the song, the drums and the electric guitars, and the idea I want for the song, the lyrics, the theme of the album maybe kind of comes in a matter of seconds, and that's what I go with.
At a
That,
lot of Fer at
yeah.
a lot of Fer De Lance jams, which Scud lives a few hours away, so it's not like we usually can't get together on a weekly basis, a regular basis. But I would add also that the last jams this summer after our tour, a big part of the Fer De Lance practice is jamming, and a lot of that's Matt, MP. Shit, that's MP. We're jamming out songs just on a whim in the practice space. And I think coming up with, then MP hears a groove from Scud or a bass line from me, or sometimes I'll jump on the mic and start screaming, some kind of vocal thing. And, sometimes those things, get put back in when MP's going back to the home studio and making his demo.
Um, Funny you should say about how things come out of you naturally and you have to catch the ideas because if you read my review of the album, that's kind of how I reacted to your music. Like this is a review that wrote itself. I mean, literally the music was hitting me with words. So you could see that
Well,
natural
we yeah,
continues.
right. Well, we appreciate one, the review, and also you saying that. That's very nice. That it's just kind of like, yeah, you shouldn't have to think overly hard about something. You should just be able to feel it and do it.
And that's kind of how it was. I mean, the way it came out of you, I got the same effect listening to it. Um,
And
Next
that's
question.
when I get the demos. I've told this story in a bunch of interviews, but when MP sent the demo for the song Colossus, from that ended up being a song on our first EP, Colossus, I was just completely blown away from the demo. And yeah, we're feeling it 100%.
Excellent. Well, actually, the next question deals a little bit more with that. So, also there are a number of co-writes by other members. So, how do you communicate what you want? And Rusty, for example, how do you pick up on his ideas to add your own input?
I think with MP, I view him as the vision, and I trust that vision. And there's ideas I come up with that don't fit. I want to have fun. I want, again, it goes back to not thinking too much, like read the room, like we're having fun. And we've collaborated so much more on this album. I think it's a lot more alive. And I think in addition, each album recording, we've worked with the same Matt Russell in the studio. And I think after you're doing this for a number of years, you know you get better. And I think we still had all the urgency in the studio, and there's some stressful moments and things like that. And you see, sometimes you don't hear you don't hear it until the end. Then like, oh wow, we got some magic or something. And so it's just cool to have that go through that and be like, okay, we've been at it so many years, and hey, we feel like we've improved on every aspect. And then we hear some of the stuff from the press, which really doesn't matter that much at all, but it's still nice, really nice to hear. And yeah, so it feels good. And I hope that's the excitement, I hope, is what you're hearing on the album. And and the friendship, too, as well.
Absolutely. Even before anything was done, what lesson have you taken from the Hyperborean?
Ooh, it's a good question. I just think this new album was a whole different ball game, since we were playing live as a band. I guess maybe that was the lesson of, maybe taking a little more time. It's hard, sometimes when you look back, you're like, and you're remembering it, and you're like, wait, was it really like that? But when I look back now, what I think is that we did take a little more time on these songs and the recording. I mentioned we recorded some stuff on our own. We delayed some sessions. You know, in the studio, some of the drums Scud recorded ended up being completely different rhythms than what were on the demo. We still were moving fast because we really wanted to have the album out for our tour in June, which we didn't quite make, but it was really shortly after. But anyway, a lot of the drum rhythms changed. We delayed the recording, so I had time to, the bass parts had to completely change in a lot of the sections. So yeah, I think, yeah, a lesson was taking our time, I guess.
Yeah, to back up what Rusty's saying, this album is an album by a live band. Um, and Colossus and Hyperborean were very much just kind of a metal project that I was writing and performing on, and with the help of my friends. But I think now um, this latest album is Fer De Lance as the live band recording an album, which the next album will, I believe, be the exact same way.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
When I hear your music, I sense a very strong 1970s hard rock influence. Yet your delivery is reminiscent of the 1980s bands, hard rock, heavy metal bands. Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
Sounds about right.
I would, I would actually half disagree. Because we have a very important saying in Fer De Lance, and that is that we want to be some sort of mix of Rainbow and Rotting Christ, and that's kind of always the goal to shoot for. And the other phrase that I use frequently is that we're a '70s band that plays black metal music, or we're a black metal band that plays '70s music. Um, and so the '70s, absolutely. I was looking at this interview coming up. I went, Mark and I have had many conversations about '70s bands, and honestly, all of my favorite releases, if outside of a couple, are from some point in the '70s, and then there's a couple in the '80s, and then there's a couple more in the '90s, but the majority of them are in the '70s. And I think we are definitely fascinated looking at prog bands or looking at hard rock bands of the '70s and listening to that and learning what they can teach us. And then just because of my childhood, I think a lot of how we perform it is actually more of kind of in the realm of the '90s, the kind of Swedish Gothenburg, the Norwegian black metal, the Greek black metal vein that I listened to kind of in my youth.
And I think MP and I both started out, at least in playing heavy metal, in more traditional, sounding bands, in the Iron Maiden and Dio, kind of categories. But we're also huge fans of a lot of the 2000s power metal, Blind Guardian, Hammerfall, and I think kind of what you saw in Fires of the Mountainside was, kind of what MP was saying was, we kind of brought all of our influence kind of full circle. And to me, I kind of hear a lot of power metal, Gamma Ray Halloween elements kind of brought into the, sort of Bathory Viking era, and Borknagar kind of sound of, kind of maybe initially like, hey, we want to start making these darker songs. We had a band before Fer De Lance that did more power metal, kind of stuff. And we started doing the more dark project. And I think on the Fires on the Mountainside, we kind of, took a step back and, not consciously or anything. It just kind of happened, and we reconnected with, all that power metal stuff, and of course with, Rainbow Rising and Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell for sure, just classic.
That clarifies a lot of
Although Rusty, you hear Gamma Ray and Halloween in a lot of things.
It's true. It's true.
Some things just can't go away.
Really the spark for me was when somebody gave me a CD with a Gamma Ray and then also a Rhapsody CD as well. The first time I heard that fast double bass drumming, I was just incredibly blown away.
So the music from Fire on the Mountainside has a very tribal feel, or it could be like a battle cry for medieval knights to attack, like very visual, soundtrackly feel, like the pictures are moving. So what kind of a feel were you going for?
No, atmospheric. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we always shoot for the atmosphere of the theme of the album. So, and the Hyperborean, for instance, we tried to make as cold of an album as we could. And with Fires on the Mountainside, we were definitely shooting for a lot of 70s warmth, and every way that we could hit that, kind of going with the theme of the album of Icarus and the burning of Knossos, and I think we were trying to. You don't just listen to it, the lyrics on our albums. You feel that you maybe are joining us on some sort of viewing party of what's actually happening.
That makes sense to me. Your drummer, Scott, did an amazing job adjusting his playing to fit the feel of the record. How did you react?
Mighty Scott.
Yeah.
How did you react once you heard his drum parts?
Oh, I think we were freaking out at first, if I'm 100% honest. Because at first it was the drums and the electric rhythm guitars. And because the rhythms were so complicated, it was just, anyway, Scud, worked his magic, and amped everything up. So I think at first it was a little bewilderment, and then once we had, okay, we need to take a little more time, on some of these bass parts, and once we got all the parts down, everything started becoming really glued together. So at first bewildered, but I think that's good because it made it exciting, and if something's harder, it's probably going to end up being better at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely practicing this album prior to going into recording. I think we heard the rough drafts of Scud's drum parts, and then we go into the studio in, I think, June or July, and Scud in 3 days just does every drum part, and Rusty and I give a couple of notes, but overall Scud is just giving his final drum part, and Rusty and I look at each other and we go, holy crap, that's great. But also, like, okay, now we have this much do we have to change. Like, the rhythms have to change here, the bass has to change here. What we had planned on was going to change. And I think actually the record is twice or three times better because it made us react it made us adapt. It made us improvise as opposed to what we kind of planned on coming in with.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not up front as a drummer, but man, deep down inside, he's the heart.
Oh yeah, he's pounding. Yeah, he's the power load.
Yeah. Let's talk about these songs, right? So you have few tracks on this album. Fires on the Mountainside opens the whole album and sets the tone. What can you tell me about that song?
Oh man, it's the epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I think was a song that I came up with in maybe maybe last summer. And it was part of a two-part uh ep super long epic song list. So I created two songs. One was Fires on the Mountainside, and the other you may hear on another record. And both were around the same amount of time, but both were dramatically different styles. And we went with Fires on the Mountainside for for this latest record. But it's to me, it's as of right now the best song that I've ever put on a record. Uh, it's a song that both playing wise I'm really proud of, but also emotional. It you know uh, I finally have a song that I can bring to other people and say, listen, this is what I'm about. This is what I like. This is what I'm doing, and they enjoy it. Um, so it's a pretty important song to me, as well as the best song ever to play live. It just takes the crowd on a journey, and I get to be, the captain of that ship as it's going through all of the different changes and all of the different moods and all of the different lyrics, and it's just I love that song.
And it really encapsulates kind of the whole to simplify the meaning of the whole album, which of course has all kinds of twists and turns and everything. But that the song Fires on the Mountainside kind of just it's this long song at the beginning. It's a journey. It's like, hey, this is what's coming on the rest of this album. You guys, this is what's up, and you better be ready. So I think that's a little different than on the Hyperborean, which sort of had the whole album kind of follows a story
Mhm.
of a captain and his mariner leaving society, getting on the ship, sailing to his doom, maybe. And on this album, I think you kind of have that kind of narrative or whatever is kind of all kind of in the first tune, and then it kind of lets everything else be a little more abstract as you move through, and you get kind of glimpses of the story, maybe out of order. Maybe maybe we're like, hey, maybe time's not that important. So anyway, that's a little hint. But so yeah, so that's
Which
one thing about the song is it kind of gives you the whole, here's what the album's kind of all about.
Which, by the way, we have to give props to Rusty here because the album was going to build originally uh, and follow the story with Fires on the Mountainside being the last track. But as the lover of Gamma Ray he is, um, uh, the Rebellion in Dreamland album, it's the album, right?
Yeah.
Starts with Rebellion in Dreamland and gives you kind of everything you need. And Rusty said, listen, why don't we start with Fires on the Mountainside? And it's maybe some people don't dig it, but I absolutely love that idea.
And some of the reviews hated it. I'm like, just because it was long. Oh,
One of the best
whatever.
openers ever, in my
Thank
opinion.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Ravens fly.
Oh man. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a triumphant hey, that's your, you talked about going off to battle. That's, to me, that's the battle kind of hymn. That's kind of, and again, I mentioned power metal earlier, and I feel like, hey, that's a totally triumphant, powerful, really kicking the ass. And hey, another ode to the land of the free gamma ray. Ray album, because after that big long Rebellion in Dreamland song comes this 5 minute Man on a Mission with just, it's just like just really fast double bass, kicks you in the ass. You're like, oh, they're gonna, they gotta change it up after the epic, but no, they just, anyway. So yeah, Ravens Fly. I guess that's a
Wait,
we're yeah.
is
What?
this album an homage to Rebellion in Dreamland? Is that
Well,
what's happening here?
I mean, at least the first two songs.
Oh, okay.
Well,
um,
a few more mentions of Gamma Ray, and I think when I have Kai Hansen demanding some royalties.
uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Please, I've
Well,
tried.
uh, yeah,
Um,
Ravens Fly, I I don't I tell myself this to make myself feel better, but I think I invented some chords on that song. Um, and it has some really weird voicings on the guitar, and it's a lot of fun to play for that reason. And I would say that playing live, it's the second most fun song to play live.
Oh yeah, and there's a folky bridge in that with a lot of acoustic, and that's the one where there's Daedalus is building the machine, right? The wings,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah,
right?
yeah.
MP, yeah, I'm getting
You're
that
right.
right.
You're right.
And
You got it.
we wanted the hammer and the anvil sound, right? So we're in the practice. I found these two pieces of metal in the alley, and finally they fulfilled their destiny. And so the sounds that you're hearing is the clanking of those metal pieces together. And that's also a little insight into what's happening in the song. There's some building happening.
Yeah. Death Thrives.
Where walls divide.
Where walls divide.
That's a heavy one.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't think it takes place in Minoan Crete, but I don't think this is a topic that we need to explain too much. It's this is one of the more overtly political songs that I wrote on the album, and it's I wanted to make the impact of creating a wall and dividing people uh, as heavy as I could. So I wrote the heaviest song at the time that I could. I gave it that stutter beat, and Scud made it even better. And it's got a riff that just draws me in, and the vocals, I don't think I had done too much screaming on the past two records. So I figured if I wanted to make a point, screaming it would be a great way to do it.
Yep. Fire and Gold, a song completely written by Rusty. So
Oh,
again, lyrics.
Oh dang, yeah. This is the campfire heavy metal tune, inspired, in part by some of MP and I's back in the more Snicks days. It's been as we grow older and living our life, there's more and more commitments, and it's been harder to go camping as regularly. But there were many a night in the spring and summer and late fall where we would, camp or whatever, and go to breweries and drink a lot of beer and listen. Bluetooth speakers just came around. Oh my God, so we're at the campfire listening to Bathory or Rotting Christ or whatever. And anyway, so this is the campfire song. It's all written all acoustic, and yeah, it was just when I write, it's a lot of, I'm thinking about Bathory, Viking era, and that was really coming out. But I don't know. To me, this song really took a step over with a lot of the electric guitars as well. And yeah, just a weird tune, and it all came together.
Yeah. Children of
when Rusty
Scott.
first
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Mark. When Rusty first sent it to me, and I still hear it to this day, and it's what really draws me to the song even more than anything is that Rusty's a big fan of spaghetti westerns, and
Oh, so am I.
yeah, well, ev spaghetti westerns are great. And this song to me sounds like the soundtrack to one
Yeah.
of the spaghetti westerns. It's so just kind of I it's so vivid, looking at kind of um, a point of time in music mixing with what we do, and it's just great.
And I think it also, like, where it is on the album also is it's a nice rest. It's a nice change of pace on the album. You just get hit with a 13-minute song, a power metal song, and then all of a sudden you're in this sort of like kind of death metal slower groove. And I think there's something to be said for, dynamics
Yeah,
when you're
it's,
sequencing
it's
songs on the record. And you know
it adds a lot of great balance.
I was really grateful that, we were able to include it on the record. And, that's another more collaborative as we're moving.
The Feast of Echoes.
That riff.
The Feast of Echoes. Oh, that riff, right? It's a pretty good riff, huh, Rusty?
Oh yeah.
uh, um, it's it it was, I think, of the songs on the album, I believe this was the first song written uh in this realm of demos that became Fires on the Mountainside. Um, and I think as I grow older and my Stratocasters become more lonely, so I have to play them more, I want to play more and more Rainbow and maybe Black Sabbath type riffs. And this one came out in a really this was completely improvised. I basically gave kind of I wrote kind of a Bathory style drum beat, and then I made the riff in Feast of Echoes, and then Scud and Rusty heard it in practice, and they went, "No, you've written a great riff, but you completely fucked up the rhythm. Um, and we need to have this riff or this rhythm," and you get kind of the main idea of the song there. Um, and then this was one of the songs that very early on, Jay Geist and I were in the practice space, and he came up with this kind of eerie Castlevania type uh, guitar part, and I put the chords underneath it, suggested a key change, and you kind of get the middle of the song there.
Yeah. Children of the Sky and Sea.
Oh man. That's
The radio hit.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that's our doom rock block, these two songs that we're talking about. But yeah, it's just a simple heavy rock song, and it's funny, a lot of the reviews mentioned how it was very, Dio sounding, and I didn't really even hear it until that. I just don't even hear that at all. I just hear a rock song.
It is.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
So finally, the album closes with Tempest Stale. And that one has a very cool Middle Eastern section in there. Love those scales.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you mentioned, sort of the folk, folk influences. I think that's a big definitely influence for us. We listen to tons of folk music, maritime music, Greek folk music, and Tempest Stele is definitely, well, Matt MP should talk about it, but that's definitely, folk song, and just a joy to play live as well.
Yeah, I mean it's that 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 song probably has the most uh positive memories for me in the studio and outside the studio and playing live, I guess. I have to change my whole opinion. I think actually Tempest Steel is the best song that we play live, for me at least. But I grew up with a lot of Greek music, and so I have always kind of drifted towards wanting to listen to it, wanting to play it. Um, and I wrote a demo a year ago now and gave it to Scud, and that demo was basically the kind of, it was going to be an intro. It was going to be what you hear kind of on the album, with the very first section that with the drums come in after that, and then it kind of would fade out, and then we would go into a next song. It wasn't going to be any sort of a big deal. And then Scud gave us the kind of Latin beat that he put on it. And his Latin beat mixed with the kind of Greek ideas that I was having, and we get Tempest Steel. And in the studio, it was I cannot emphasize enough how much of a blast this song was to play. It was me with having played live with Scud to kind of get the feel of the song, and then picking up an acoustic guitar and doing an entire run through of solos live, and doing that 5 more times with acoustic guitar, and then doing that 5 more times with an electric guitar, and then putting the vocals on. And it was just, I mean, there's a couple of times in the song that you'll hear the word opa. And I don't know if that's coming from the vocal mic or the acoustic guitar mic.
Or the percussion tracks.
Or the percussion track, because we were all screaming it. There was a bottle of Ouzo in the studio, and it was an absolutely amazing and super fun time to record that song.
I couldn't believe live what a response we on the tour. We played the song Last a lot, and I to me it's just sort of a folk, song. And I just couldn't believe how it worked live, and people were doing, one of the
circle dancing. There was circle dancing at the shows.
Dance. It was, and I think at the end of the day, I think people just want to dance.
Fantastic. Tell me about the recording process. How did you get that sound? Did you face any challenges?
Gosh, I mean, there's always challenges, but like I mentioned before, this is this is our third recording project. We've been working with pretty much the same crew, so we're working really well together. Matt Russell, the recording engineer, mixer. I think everything's just better. We weren't as happy with the drum sound, I don't think, on Hyperborean. So that going into it, that was something that we addressed. So, I think it's just, hey, Matt Russell's not just press and record. He's also in it to, help us on our, put the record together. And so everyone keeps getting better. Yeah.
So to echo that, yeah, Matt Russell is our friend and an absolutely stellar engineer and producer. He, there was a couple of times in this recording sessions that I was by myself doing like acoustic guitar, and then switching to vocals, and then switching to something else, and it was a lot of pressure. And he and I worked together really well, and he has great ears, and he's a gem. He's a true gem. In terms of the recording process, I think we went in with a better idea this time. We went in with more practice. We went in with kind of more realistic ideas. And then we were going to record rhythm guitars on Sunday, and we started recording on Friday, and my amp blew. And then I guess to bring it up even more, what we played Legions of Metal 2024, right in May, and I broke my thumb a weekend after. And we went into the studio, and I just played guitar with a broken thumb on all these songs. So like, whatever amount of planning you can do, whatever amount of preparation you can do, fuck it. It's all gonna come out however it comes out.
Yeah, and we also this time went with a different mastering studio. We really wanted to take it kind of over the top, so I think we went with Arthur Rizek. He's put out a bunch of records that we think sound great, like the last Crip Sermon record. Um, so I think that was a change, and I'd tell you that's the first time the first master we ever got back was perfect.
So at
Was
go ahead.
it was absolutely amazing. We get a master back, and it's almost perfect. Like it just elevates all the songs, and we were just astounded.
Yeah, we really just had sequencing was kind of the last kind of, challenge, I think.
Mhm. So at what point did you feel like the mission for this album was accomplished?
When we had the master and it was fit down to the, CD and the LP and everything for me.
Uh, yeah, probably the same for me. Although getting it from Matt Russell to Arthur Risk was its own kind of victory. Because we definitely spent a lot more time listening and editing, um, getting the tones right, getting everything else right. And so by the time it made it to Arthur Risk, Arthur has a fantastic catalog of what he's done, and so I wasn't overly worried. I wasn't expecting it to be perfect the first time out, but I wasn't overly worried when we transferred it from our studio to mastering.
Mhm.
I take it back. It was actually when we had the album cover finished because you got to have the whole package.
That's right. And actually, that's my next question, right? So here it is again, right? You've used a famous painting for the album cover. In your opinion, how does this image connects with the music or the image you're trying to portray?
There's fires on the mountainside.
Yeah, right. I think so that's a picture by oh, I'm gonna mess up the last name. Albert Bierstadt.
Sounded good.
Um yeah, and it is sitting in the Cleveland Metropolitan Art Museum. And
Cleveland.
it doesn't I don't think it's on display, and it's just kind of hiding in the back, and I thought that that was a shame. Um, and while our album doesn't actually deal with a volcano, the actual demise of Minoan Creek did deal with a volcano, and I just kind of loved how chaotic and how terrifying that painting was, and thought, that kind of fits perfectly with this album.
It was extra intimidating at the time because those wildfires were happening in California, kind of when we were
Mhm.
assembling is. So it was it was kind of heavy selection.
Yeah, I remember that. Um, so the album came out a few months ago. How are people responding to it so far?
Yeah, it's been a lot of positivity.
Mhm. Um,
Yeah, people loved coming out. I hope to the shows. They at least seemed like they were enjoying it a lot. Um, and uh, we've had a couple of people contacting us that this is a great album, and especially the people that we are friends with, and people like you, Mark, that have told us that this is a good album. That means a lot to us.
Yeah, and the response has been big, and there's been calls. We've got some stuff already booked for Germany next year. So I think the tour went really well. The album release came right after, and going on tour that takes money to have the van and to get yourself around and feed yourself in the States. Uh, you know, it's about 50-50 whether a venue is going to be able to take care of you or not. So we're fired up. We've got the call to go back to Germany, and this record was more successful than anything we've done before. And when you have success, there's funds that are coming in, and that lets us do these things and go out on the road. And we're we don't we don't have our own personal gold pile to go out on the road. So, you know, we don't want to be paying for that out of our pocket. You know, we want to make sure that it's really warranted that we're out there using all those resources when we're out there playing heavy metal shows. And so it's just nice when you can support that with the music and artwork and records that you're making.
Absolutely. So finally, where do we go from here?
To the future. You know, like I mentioned, we've got already some. We're booked for Storm Crusher Festival in Germany, which is sort of near Munich. And we've also just been working on some. It'll be probably about 7 to 10 days out there, maybe longer. We'll see. But we're working on that. And you know, there's a lot of keyboards on the new album, so we've been kind of daydreaming and you know, thinking that can be a future path for the band. So I think ultimately the where we're going is you know, forward, and we don't want to do, you know, we don't want to do, you know, we've been doing this a long time, you know, sometimes stuff can get boring, so we want to keep it fresh and keep experimenting.
Yeah, we have about 5 or 6 new songs just written in the past couple of months that can end up on a record. We have a couple of releases from or demos from the Fires of the Mountains from the Fires of the Mountainside era that haven't been released yet. So we're looking at releasing something somewhat quickly. And you know, I while we don't have anything booked for the next couple of months, I'm really looking forward to playing another live show soon. It's the air that I breathe. It's the water that I drink, and yeah, just looking forward to playing a couple of awesome shows and going around the world and seeing our fans in Germany and maybe Italy, maybe Greece. We don't know yet. And the United States. You know, we had a lot of people came out for those shows from our last tour, and we want to see them again because these are some difficult times, and it's great to kind of hang out with your fellow metalheads and enjoy the music.
Yeah, we had a great time on the road in the USA in June. It far exceeded my expectations. Who would have thought Youngstown, Ohio would have like one of the coolest, you know, hard and heavy music venues, you know, in the country, you know, that I've ever been to. You know, or you know, Washington D.C. would have the most metal crowd I've ever seen. You know, on the whole tour, that was definitely the most heavy. D.C. the most heavy metal crowd. So yeah, it was just a total delight. So yeah, Europe's great, but right at home, there's plenty of great places to go play where people want to hear heavy music.
Fantastic. I hope bigger and better things are around the corner. MP and Rusty, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and good luck with the band and in your release.
Hey, Mark, thanks so much for the support. You've kind of been with us, and you know, it feels like kind of since the beginning. So we just really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much, Mark. And I saw earlier today that you have an interview with Renaissance that I have to check out immediately after this.
Oh, it's a good one. You'll love it.
Oh man, Renaissance. Woo, baby.